They slammed the door in her face at 16, laughed, said she'd come crawling back. But 9 years later, she owned the house. And what she did with it, no one saw coming. If you think you've heard stories of survival, wait till you hear this one. Hit subscribe so you never miss the ones that hit hardest. Now let me take you back to the night it all began. She remembered the exact color of the carpet when it happened. A deep burgundy, worn thin near the front door. The place where feet hesitated before leaving for good. Ariana Miles was 16. Top of her class. Quiet, observant, always the one who cleaned up after dinner, even when no one asked. But none of that mattered the night her stepmother looked her straight in the eyes and said, "Pack your things. You've got 1 hour." No yelling. No chaos. Just cold precision, like someone cutting a thread clean through. And just like that, the girl who had once been called sweetheart became the burden. She glanced at her brother, half-brother really, who leaned against the staircase rail, chewing gum like it was just another Wednesday night. "You'll be back," he smirked. "Bet you won't last a week." Her father, not even present. He had died 6 months ago. Cancer. Quiet fast. And somehow, after the funeral, Ariana's place in the house went with him. She stuffed her clothes into a garbage bag. No suitcase. No ceremony. Just survival. She took one photo, the only one she had left of her mom, who passed when Ariana was 9. She didn't cry. Not when the door closed. Not even when the lock clicked behind her. The air outside hit her like a slap. It wasn't the wind. It was the silence. Because that's the thing about being kicked out, you don't just lose shelter. You lose proof that you were ever wanted in the first place. And as she walked down the driveway with a cracked phone, $12 in her pocket, and a backpack that sagged like her chest did that night, she whispered something she didn't even realize she believed yet. "I'm not coming back. Not like they think." That was the night she disappeared from their lives. But it was also the night she started building a life they'd one day be forced to watch. Because some girls break. And some girls break the mold. Now let me tell you what happened next, because where Ariana went after that front door closed, no one expected. Not even her. $12.32. That was the exact amount Ariana had when the world stopped pretending to care. She found a crumpled 20 in the pocket of an old hoodie, gave 10 to a cab driver to get as far away from that house as she could, and bought a hamburger with the rest. Not because she was hungry, but because it was warm, and for 5 minutes holding it felt like holding on to something solid. She ate it slowly, sitting outside a gas station under a flickering street lamp. It tasted like salt and paper napkins and fear. That night, she slept behind the public library. Not inside, outside behind a dumpster where no one would think to check. She wrapped her jacket around her legs, laid her backpack under her head, and kept one eye open. The concrete was cold, but not as cold as the thought that no one, not one single person, had texted to ask if she was okay. Freedom had come fast and brutal. And it didn't come with a map. The next morning, she walked into a coin laundromat and asked if they were hiring. The woman behind the counter stared at her like she was trouble, then finally pointed to a mop. "Can you clean toilets?" Ariana nodded. "Cash only," the woman said. "You eat what's left in the break room. No promises." She nodded again. That first week, she earned $75, slept under a stairwell, and learned how to make a box of crackers last 4 days. She also learned that being forgotten hurts worse than being hated, because at least hate remembers your name. But every night before she closed her eyes, she made a promise to herself. This isn't who I am. It's just where I am. For now. It would take months before she found a roof. And even longer before she found a reason to look anyone in the eye again. But all of it began here with $12, a mop, and the stubborn belief that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't where her story would end. And just when it seemed like Ariana would fade into the background like so many forgotten girls, someone saw her. Someone who would change everything. Let me tell you about the woman with the blueberry muffins. And the question that cracked Ariana open. It happened on a Tuesday. Ariana hadn't eaten since Saturday night. Just crackers and tap water. Her head throbbed. Her hands shook. But she still showed up to mop floors at the laundromat, because if she didn't, there'd be no $20 in an envelope at the end of the week. No crackers. No tap water. That afternoon she went behind the strip mall looking for anything, A bruised apple, half a sandwich in a trash bag that hadn't been ripped open yet. Pride left her body weeks ago. All that was left was instinct. Then it happened. She reached for a box wedged behind a dumpster, and the broken glass caught her wrist. A long clean slice. Not deep but deep enough. She didn't scream. Didn't even curse. Just stared at it for a second like someone watching themselves from outside their body. Because in that moment that cut was proof. Proof that she could still bleed. That she hadn't turned into a ghost yet. She tied it up with a sock from her backpack and kept walking. Didn't cry. Didn't stop. But by nightfall, her body gave up before her will did. She collapsed behind the alley, her back against a brick wall. Hands still wrapped, breath shallow. She remembers the sound of a bottle clinking nearby. A voice saying, "Hey kid." Then everything going dark. The next thing she knew, she was under bright lights. A paramedic handed her a juice box like she was 5. Someone else wrapped her wrist in real gauze. They said she was dehydrated. Exhausted. Running on fumes. They asked if she had anyone to call. She said no. They asked if she had a place to stay. She said yes. It was a lie and they knew it. But they let her go anyway because there was no insurance, no family, no system that had a place for a girl like Ariana. She left the clinic with a bag of crackers, a paper wristband, and a warning to take it easy. She didn't. She went right back to work the next morning, limping through the door of the laundromat like nothing happened. Because that's what forgotten people do. They keep moving even when standing still might save them. And then on a rainy Friday while scrubbing gum off a tile, someone noticed her. Not for the way she cleaned, but for the way she disappeared when she wasn't moving. The woman wore a gray coat and smelled like fresh books. She ordered black coffee and blueberry muffins. She left a card. And a sentence Ariana would never forget. "You don't belong here." And for the first time in months, someone didn't just see the mop in her hand. They saw the girl holding it. Let me tell you who that woman was. And how her quiet words opened a door Ariana didn't know she needed. The card was red. Not bright. Not glossy. Just red. The kind of red that felt deliberate, like it had seen things. Like it carried something heavy in silence. Ariana found it under her tip jar. Right after closing shift. No name. No title. Just an address. And one sentence, handwritten in black ink. "We don't save you. We stand with you." She stared at it for a long time, flipping it over again and again. No phone number. No website. Just the bold choice of red and that one line that refused to leave her mind. She shoved it in her pocket. 3 nights passed. Business slowed. Her paycheck came, half of what she'd expected. Her dinner that night was ketchup packets and 2 broken crackers. She sat on the curb outside the laundromat, street lamp buzzing above her, and pulled the card out again. "We don't save you. We stand with you." Something in those words didn't scare her. They challenged her. As if someone out there didn't pity her. They respected her struggle. As if she wasn't a case. She was a person. She took 2 buses and walked 6 blocks in the wrong shoes. The building wasn't a shelter. It wasn't labeled. Just an old brownstone with a small iron gate and 1 gold plaque. Phoenix House. She nearly turned around. But the door opened before she could. A woman stepped out, maybe in her 50s, silver braids, no makeup, and a calm so heavy it quieted the whole sidewalk. "You made it," she said. "Not who are you? Not what do you want? Just you made it." Ariana didn't speak. She couldn't. The woman nodded, motioned her inside. "We don't ask for your story right away," she said. "But when you're ready, don't lie when you tell it." Inside smelled like lemon and old books. Warm. Real. A couch that looked worn in, not decorative. Girls sat in corners reading, folding laundry, laughing too loud. No one looked perfect. No one looked broken. Ariana didn't know what this place was. But for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she had to be anyone else. They gave her a bed. A hot meal. A name tag with her real name written clearly. Ariana, not hey girl. Not you there. Not the one who mops. That night, as she lay in clean sheets, listening to soft music and the sound of someone humming in the kitchen downstairs, Ariana whispered, maybe this isn't just a pause. Maybe this is the part where things start." And she was right. Because what Phoenix House offered her next wasn't comfort. It was challenge. Structure. a mirror. And what she did with that was something no one, not even Ariana, saw coming. Let me show you how the girl who was forgotten became the girl with a plan. There was no big speech. No drumroll moment. Just a plain table, a yellow GED prep book, and a post-it note that read, "You start tomorrow. 8 a.m. kitchen closes at 7:45. Ariana stared at it like it was written in another language. Because this wasn't just about studying, it was about believing she still had a future. She hadn't opened a textbook in over a year. The last time she tried algebra, she was still living under a roof that pretended to love her. Now she was in a quiet room with a plastic chair, a cheap pen, and a page full of equations that didn't care about her backstory. And somehow that felt like mercy. The first week was brutal. She fell asleep on page 17. Got 1 out of 10 questions right. She forgot what hypotenuse meant and cried in the bathroom stall, because no one else seemed to struggle with it. But every time she thought about quitting, she heard Ms. Lorraine's voice in the back of her mind. You don't have to prove them wrong. You just have to prove yourself right. So she stayed. Late nights, early mornings. No social media. No distractions. Just Ariana, the book, and the quiet revolution of a girl deciding not to vanish. She passed her reading test in 3 weeks. Math took longer, 2 months and more tears than she'd admit. But the day she got her GED certificate, she didn't shout. She just folded it up, slid it into the back of her journal and whispered, "Okay, now we begin." And begin she did. She applied to 9 community colleges. 8 rejected her. Too little paperwork. No SAT. No references. But just one said yes. A small liberal arts college 2 hours away. They offered a partial scholarship and work study. It wasn't Harvard. It wasn't flashy. But to Ariana it was oxygen. And she took it. Packed everything she owned. 2 duffel bags, a GED certificate, and a new set of notebooks, and boarded a bus at dawn. Phoenix House gave her a send-off. Not a goodbye. A see you when you come back with your story. And as she looked out the bus window, Ariana didn't think about who left her behind. She thought about what she was building. And the day she built something big enough to hold someone else. That day was still far off. But before she could change someone else's life, she had to return to the people who once erased hers. And life, with all its timing, had a plan for that too. Came in the form of an email. Subject line: Estate of James Harper legal notification. Let me show you what happened when the past came calling. And Ariana answered. Not as a victim, but as a woman they never saw coming. The email came at 3:42 p.m. on a rainy Thursday. Ariana was in the campus library, proofreading a paper on postmodern narratives when she saw it in her inbox. The subject line was cold, official. Estate of James Harper legal notification. She almost deleted it. James Harper was her grandfather. Her real one. Her father's father. She hadn't seen him in over a decade. Not since the day of her dad's funeral, when her stepmother quietly closed every door that linked Ariana to the Harper name. But now an email. Out of nowhere. She clicked it. Inside was one line that made her hand tremble. You are named in the will. Presence required for reading. All parties must attend. She read it 3 times before closing her laptop. Her breath felt thin, like memory was stealing the oxygen out of the room. Because this wasn't just a document. This was proof. Proof that someone in her bloodline remembered her. That she hadn't been erased completely. She didn't respond to the email right away. She called Ms. Lorraine first. I don't even know if he knew I was still alive, Ariana whispered. He knew, Lorraine said gently. He just didn't have the power to fight what they did. But now he's making sure you're seen. There was a pause. A heavy one. You don't have to go, Lorraine added. But if you do, walk in like you never left. That night, Ariana sat on her bed with her old journal in her lap. She flipped through pages filled with survival, with math problems and quiet prayers, with checklists of things she once thought she'd never do. Get GD, get accepted, don't disappear. And now one more line. Be seen. On your terms. She booked the flight using every last cent of her work-study savings. She packed one black dress, no makeup, and the small silver pin Lorraine gave her when she left Phoenix House. She didn't go to prove anything. She went because love, even buried in silence, has a way of finding its voice. And this time it came dressed in legal paper and final wishes. The day of the reading, she walked into the law office where her name had once been erased, and watched everyone freeze when they saw her. Her stepmother looked like she'd seen a ghost. Her brother didn't even smirk. The room shifted when the lawyer said, "Ariana Miles, present." And then came the words that would change everything. Words written by a man who never got to say goodbye, but who made damn sure the world knew who his granddaughter really was. But what those words left behind, that was the real twist. Let me show you what happens when inheritance isn't about money, but about reclaiming your name. The room smelled like old wood and polished power. Ariana stepped through the tall oak doors of Redmond and Hale Law, same firm that had handled every Harper estate for 3 generations. But this time, they weren't expecting her to come through the front, and certainly not to take the lead seat at the table. She wore black. Not for mourning. For message. Her hair was tied back. Her posture? Unapologetic. Not defiant. Just undeniable. The receptionist blinked twice when she gave her name. "They're already in the conference room," she said quietly, like trouble had just walked in wearing heels. Ariana pushed the door open herself. There they were. Her stepmother, Marla, in a designer coat too tight at the collar. Her half-brother, Caleb, slouched like he owned the place. Neither had changed. Caleb let out a soft laugh. "Well, look who's back from the ashes." Ariana said nothing. Marla stood up. "There's clearly been a mistake. She hasn't been a part of this family for over a decade." But the attorney raised a hand, silencing her. He opened the briefcase slowly, pulled out a stack of documents and began. The final will and testament of James Richard Harper. And with that, everything shifted. Because James hadn't just left Ariana a token inheritance. He left her everything. The house. The land. The accounts. The Harper family estate in full. No splits. No clauses. No apologies. One name. Ariana Miles. The lawyer cleared his throat. His words were specific. She was cast out, but she endured. And for that, she deserves the legacy they tried to lock her out of. The silence that followed was suffocating. Marla's chair screeched as she stood. "This is outrageous." Ariana finally spoke. "No," she said softly. "This is closure." Caleb stood too, his face flushed. "You don't deserve it." Ariana looked him in the eye. Calm. Unshaken. "You're right," she replied. "I earned it." No raised voices. No courtroom drama. Just a quiet reclamation. Not just of property, but of presence. And when Ariana walked out of that law office, keys in hand, she wasn't thinking about revenge. She was thinking about legacy. Because what she planned to do with that house was something no one in that room had the capacity to imagine. Let me take you there. To the day the gates of the Harper estate opened, not for a party, but for a purpose. The iron gate creaked as it opened, but this time it wasn't for them. No family gathering. No champagne flutes. No velvet ropes. Just folding chairs on the front lawn. Homemade lemonade. And a sign painted by hand. "Welcome to Miles' house. A home for her." Ariana stood on the porch of the estate they once used to exile her. But today it wasn't about taking anything back. It was about passing it forward. She didn't change the furniture. She changed the purpose. The grand piano in the parlor? Now a study space, lined with textbooks and half-drunk coffee mugs. The crystal chandeliers? They stayed, but beneath them now sat girls with scars, stories, and spark in their eyes. Some had been in foster care. Some aged out with nowhere to go. Some had journals full of poems and nowhere to read them out loud. And now they had rooms. They had locks. They had names people remembered. When the ribbon was cut, Ariana didn't speak from a stage. She simply stood beside a girl named Jada, 15, fresh from a shelter, and helped her adjust her graduation cap for a photo. A reporter asked, "What made you do this?" Ariana smiled, small but sure. "Because I know what it's like when no one answers your knock. And I know what it feels like to hold the key and choose to open the door anyway." That night, as the porch lights flickered on, the same porch where she once stood at 16, heartbroken and bag in hand, Ariana stepped out into the cool evening air. There was no audience. No final monologue. Just the sound of laughter from upstairs and the smell of burnt toast from someone learning to cook for the first time. She walked the garden path slowly, fingertips grazing the lavender her grandmother once planted. This house didn't ache anymore. It breathed. And as she reached the gate, she turned back one last time. Not to mourn the past, but to honor what came from it. Because some legacies are born in boardrooms. But the most powerful ones? They start in silence and grow through someone brave enough to listen. If Ariana's story moved you, if it reminded you that healing isn't about erasing pain, but about building something beautiful in its place, then stick with us. There are more stories like hers. More voices waiting to be heard. Subscribe to the channel, because sometimes all it takes is one story to help someone rewrite their own. We'll see you in the next one.